little bit different video for you guys today. I've been on a big photography kick lately, so I figured I would show you guys a free alternative to Adobe Lightroom, aka how to edit photos for free forever. So this is a program called Darktable. It's free, it's open source. It's on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. I'm gonna show you guys how to edit some photos in Darktable. It was kind of horrendous for me when I first got started, but I've been using it for a couple of weeks now instead of Lightroom, and I now actually prefer the Darktable process. So I think if you stick with it, you will enjoy it more. There's other videos going over getting started in Darktable. I'll probably link one of those in the description, but I'm just going to show you kind of a simplified process. So you come in here to Lighttable. This is like your organization view, okay? You've got different views down here. The one on the far left with all the squares is like your gallery view. This one in the middle, I click this and I set it to one image at a time right there. And then I can arrow key back and forth. You can hit numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to rate images. Here at the top toolbar, you'll click the stars that you want to see, and then it will show you those rated images. So if I want to see images that I've rated 3 stars, I would click this 3rd star up here. Okay, to add images, you're going to hit add to library, navigate to the folder on your computer, hit OK. Let's edit. Hit D for dark room, or you can just click dark room up here on the top right. There's also tethering and other stuff up here, so under that drop down menu. So dark room is where you do your editing, hence the name. Makes sense, right? So here's some images I shot today in Bangkok. This is at this like Porsche cafe. It was sick, honestly. First things first, you want to set your exposure, because that's going to save you some time in the image edit if you do exposure first. It's the most important thing. Click this little light bulb icon down here on this sort of bottom right toolbar. That's going to make your image surrounded by a white frame and in this gray tone, and that's kind of going to give you context for how to set your exposure. On the right hand side, you have all of your effects. So you can just hit the slash key or click into this search tab up here. Start typing EXP for exposure. You see it pops up. You click into it. You can turn on and off your effect with this power switch right here. And then you're just going to drag the exposure slider. You also have a black level correction here. If you double click a slider, it'll go back to standard. Or you can just turn off the effect. We're going to set this so the majority of the image looks right, namely the subject, which is the car. Obviously, this is not a perfect photo or shooting conditions with like the chair and stuff in front of the car, but I kind of wanted to show you guys how to make mid photos look better, because a lot of times you're going to have to do that for a client. If you're not 100% happy for the photos from a photo shoot, you still have to deliver or reshoot. So this is how to make your mid photos decent in Darktable. So we're gonna set exposure here, whatever we want. Okay, you have some tabs right here on the effects sort of panel. If you click them, if you like click into these, it will usually show you which ones you have turned on. But you're either gonna use Sigmoid or Filmic RGB, and this is gonna be like your main slider besides exposure. So this is basically a contrast slider. Just slide contrast till it looks right. That looks pretty good. Actually, I'm gonna go back to exposure. It had a black level correction slider, and I'm gonna pull those blacks down so they look nice and crunchy, but not like too over the top. Maybe there. I might, it's reversible. You can always go back and fix it later. Filmic RGB is another good effect. If you click it on, you have a white exposure and a black exposure slider, and it will basically put a curve on your highlights there to soften things up while reducing the luminance, right? The brightness of those highlights. I don't actually need Filmic RGB in this photo because we're using Sigmoid, but it's another toolkit for the arsenal. Hit the light bulb icon down here, and it's gonna bring you back to the main view. I usually start on this left-hand side of the effects, and I'll work my way to the right with the tabs, because on the furthermost like tab to the right, you have kind of your finishing tabs like framing, grain, vignette. So we'll start on the left. We've got color calibration. It'll do this automatically. You can also click the eyedropper and it'll give you another automatic adjustment. I'm just gonna leave it how it was because Darktable did a great job of importing color balance how I like it, honestly. Orientation, that's just your rotation. Highlight reconstruction, you can just leave that on. Okay, next tab. You've got local contrast. If you turn this on, you can dial in contrast for midtones, shadows, etc. We don't even need that right now. Shadows and highlights. Okay, if you turn this on, this will help you to pull back your highlights and shadows if you need to. So that's a little hot, but once we turn it on, we can see this is like a more balanced image. So, and there's a lot of ways to do this. You don't have to use this panel or this effect like everything in Photoshop or Darktable. Like, there's usually a few ways to do something, but shadows and highlights is a really easy way to correct those two adjustments with two sliders, and it's just not a lot of work, so it's kind of nice. A crop, obviously crop, pretty simple. You can come in here and you click this. It might say freehand. You click on that, it gives you all your different crops, so you can choose a specific crop if you want one. So 16 by 9. Maybe we want it a little bit more horizontal. Now, if I hold down my right mouse button and I drag, it will let me align the image freehand. So that's kind of hard to do in this image, but I'll tell you what you could do is you could draw from the center of the wheel to the other center of the wheel, try to get it about equal. And that's pretty much going to align your image, right? Because the floor is flat. That's kind of nice. Okay. Chromatic aberrations, you can just turn that on. You don't have to mess with it really. Lens correction, if you turn this on, this is just like Adobe Lightroom. It's going to see what lens you're using and fix it. So I was shooting on, down here it tells you at the bottom in the middle, 1/250 shutter, f2.2 35mm Canon. So if I turn on the lens correction, you'll see it has a fair amount of correction on the sides. I have no preference really, so I'll just leave it on, it's fine. Generally when shooting cars, you do want them to be as true to life as possible. You don't want to be distorting them, or some manufacturer is going to get mad at you, especially if it's Ferrari. Moving on, that's pretty much our basic adjustments. If you want to change saturation, you can come into color balance RGB. Scroll down to global saturation, shadows, midtones, highlights. Does what you think it does. Like if you turn down the shadow saturation, it's just going to turn down the saturation in the shadows, so it makes sense. Our saturation is pretty much fine here. I'll turn it up globally just a little bit because typically images come through Darktable a little bit less saturated than they normally would be. So I turn it up just a little bit on most images in Darktable. Don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. Don't mess with that. Next tab. Sharpen. We'll do that a different way. You can turn on sharpen and like dial in some sharpness. Usually do that at the end because it can slow down processing a little bit. What else do we need in here? We don't really need any of this. If it's a noisy image, you can just turn on denoise and it'll like find a match for your camera and camera's ISO or ISO. We don't really need that here because we're shooting ISO 200, so I don't care about denoise. You can also scroll in, by the way, just to see the image. I forgot to mention that. You can also hold down W and it'll full screen your image temporarily. Let W go and it moves it back. I've changed that to F as well in keybind, so F for full screen personally. or W. Done. Next. Okay, last one. We'll scroll back out. If you turn on framing, it's gonna give you a frame. Lots of photographers like this. Like, it puts your photo in context. There's some settings in here. You can go to constant border. You can choose what sort of border size you want and what aspect ratio. So like, if I find 1:1 square, if I choose a square frame, it's gonna make a square image, and it's gonna resize my photo however it needs to make that happen. So really nice for like Instagram. You can add grain, contrast equalizer, vignetting. There's all sorts of stuff here. I might do I might pull the exposure down just a little bit. Seems a little hot in exposure. Yeah, I kind of like that. Over here on the left, you have snapshots. You can take a snapshot of where you are in the history panel on the left as well. Scroll down to when you started doing things. So should be somewhat around there. Take another snapshot. Now when I click on one of these exposure, I can drag this slider and it'll show me before editing and after editing. So we're not doing anything super crazy here. And then you click back to the top of the history stack just to go to present day, essentially, right? So it's not doing crazy edits here, and you can get into like, you know, hue and saturation, and there's also presets in Darktable, but I enjoy rolling my own color because I think that's part of what makes you a good photographer. I'll show you guys how to save images in a little bit, but first let's edit a couple of images. Couple more images, I should say. Oh, I gotta click on my, go back to snapshots and click on that snapshot you made to turn it off. This is just kind of, I just like how this looks. It's not really like an image I would deliver to a client, but like maybe this, I would post this on Instagram as a story if I just want to like add a bunch of text and like ask a question or something, because it's super distracting. So come over here, start typing in exposure, boom. I'll show you guys how to do curves like you would do curves in a Photoshop program. You can start typing in tone curve, or just type in curve. It'll pull up tone curve. This is the curve adjustment that you know and love. So you can pull this down here. This will be your shadows. Over here on the top right, you've got highlights. You can pull this up to add contrast. If I hit the power switch on the top left of the effect, turn it on and off. So that's after. Add a little bit more to smooth out the middle. And then if you want to crunch the blacks, you would grab this bottom handle down here and you pull it to the right. There's not a lot of blacks in this image. If you want to soften the highlights, you can grab this handle on the top right and pull the highlights down. It'll give you that kind of modern Instagram look. Which is not super descriptive. A little bit more stylized, you might say, perchance. Go back into sigmoid. This is our main contrast slider. Make sure when you load up Darktable, hit this settings icon. It's in the top right. You see the settings cog, processing tab, settings, processing. Hit scene referred sigmoid. Exit out. That's all you need to know for now. That's all. Don't even worry about it, okay? Don't even worry about it. This image is good. Let's move on. Okay, I'll show you guys how to actually copy and paste settings, like edits, because it makes sense here. So this one, you have some edits. I'm just gonna click this image in Darktable, hit Control or Command C. Since I'm on Mac, I'll hit Command C. Okay. Go to the next image, hit Command V. It's gonna paste it all. If you do a crop, it's gonna paste that too. Now all we gotta do, hit the light bulb icon, hit slash, start typing in exposure. We're gonna set our exposure. Okay, that looks about right, but our contrast is too high, so I'm gonna go back to my curve. I'm gonna Maybe even reset the curve here. Or just do it again from scratch. Right. Close that. Again, just hitting the light bulb on the bottom to close the preview. Okay, boom. It's looking pretty fancy. If we want, we can start typing in highlights, pull up shadows and highlights. No highlights, just dial in the highlights really quick and easy. We can add a frame if we want. We can add grain. You just type in grain, pulls it up, turn it on. You might not be able to see the grain detail on my OBS recording because I don't know how good the bitrate is on this video, but you can increase the coarseness, turn down the strength, get just a little bit of that nice film grain, just a little bit, to add some texture if you need it. Come in here, add a frame. You can also find frame by going to this last tab on the right. Find framing, simply turn it on. I'm gonna hit 4 to mark this image as a 4-star. That way I can come back to it later. I'll show you guys how to save images. Okay, maybe we'll Control or Command C, copy those edits, go to the next image, paste. Exposure's wrong, hit slash, type in exposure. Bring the exposure down a bit. I'm gonna turn off grain, turn off framing. Control C, maybe we'll go to the next image. Paste, hit exposure. Dial the exposure back down. Go back to tone curve. We'll go to shadows and highlights. Bring the shadows up a touch. Okay. It's looking pretty good. All right, we could spend more time on these, but I'm just showing you guys some general quick workflow, okay? Lightroom, or not Lightroom, Darktable doesn't really sharpen by default. You can come to this last tab, hit diffuser sharpen. Now right click on the title where it says diffuser sharpen. It will give you some presets. Go down to sharpness. You can hit normal or fast normal or strong. Normal will sharpen it just a little bit. Looks pretty nice. Might add a vignette to this photo. Not too much vignette. I honestly like or prefer the workflow of typing in the effects to the search bar up here rather than scrolling and hunting for it. You can still do that. You can go to your different tabs here, like this one that's colorful is the color tab. So you've got your hue and saturation. You can still work like that, but I think it's just easier to type in the effect that you want. And you only use like, 10 effects most of the time probably. So you know them all and you'll learn them all by name very, very fast. Just some exposure and some black level correction already makes this image look pretty good. But I might just leave that black level. Go to tone curve for like my to dial in my shadows, because that's just how I'm used to working. I grew up on Adobe Photoshop, so I'm just kind of used to the curves tool. Obviously I wouldn't crush the white in this image because you're trying to show probably the Singa logo on the side of the car, and if you crush the whites you're going to get rid of that. So if you're working with advertisers and stuff, just got to keep the context in mind about like why you might make certain edits, but that's not really what this video is about. We'll hit some sharpening, diffuser sharpen, right click, sharpness, strong. That's going to give us a hefty amount of sharpness. It'll look good on Instagram or print in all likelihood. Turn on framing again to see before and after. As I take a snapshot, I go back to before I started editing all this. So we'll maybe go to exposure, take a snapshot, and then I'll click the snapshot that I took. And then just drag across the screen left to right. And you can see the edits. Nothing too crazy. If you turn on this soft proof button down here, it'll show you essentially what it's going to look like when you render out the image, like high quality, but it's also going to take longer. So I usually leave that off. How do we save an image? You can save images in Darkroom. I would just go to Lighttable. You can click this icon on in the bottom toolbar where it shows all the little picture frames. Now click and then Control or Command click to keep selecting more. And then we'll select the few that we want to render out. So we've got 4 images selected there. Now on the bottom right side, you've got your export tab. You're just going to click in here and choose a folder to save your images to. JPEG, 90 quality, 93 quality, somewhere in that range. You just leave it to 0 by 0 pixels here in the size, and then it'll just save it as is. It won't resize it. So 0 by 0 pixels is actually the standard. Upscaling, no. High quality resampling, yes. Profile, I didn't even mess with it. Just leave it on image settings. And then you click Start Export. It's pretty fast to export stuff. You'll notice that you don't have to build previews like you do in Lightroom. So it's actually faster, in my opinion, to work in Darktable because you skip that whole process of building previews. Now, let's look at these images. Looks pretty good. Ready for the gram or the website or whatever it is. So yeah, that's how you edit images in Darktable. Let me know what you guys want to see next.